Yo, G's, how we doing? Let's get some ones in the chat if you can hear me. It's gonna be a good one today. V Vanko said one. Udon Warrior, let's go one. Nice. All right, sounds like you guys can hear me. Let's just wait for some more people to get in here. Today's gonna be a good one, principle wise. Fuck around and find out. All right, so let's just talk about what we're gonna do today. So basically, we set up this Airtable in the dynamic carousel workshop, and this is for all the products basically. And what we're doing is we want to make it so we can automatically get all of this information into our Voiceflow knowledge base, and then we can automate. So if we add new records or if anything happens, we can then go ahead and I just delete the stuff. I was doing some tests. We can go ahead and then add this stuff to the knowledge base. So let me just run this scenario and see what we got. If I just go ahead and run this. Yeah, don't worry about that. GM guy faggot. All right. That's my in-depth testing. So I just ran that, and then you could see now I have all of these products in knowledge base in Voiceflow. And so if I just click on some of these, you can see we got all the information we need. We have product link, product image URL, description. So I'm just going to go ahead and then delete all of these so we can test this again. Now what we want to do is we want to break this down step by step. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to build this and change this for yourself rather than build it from scratch, because it's just much easier. I'm going to give you the template for this exact blueprint. So I'm just going to go ahead and then duplicate this. All right. So, and then I'm going to go back and I'm going to create a new scenario. Create a new scenario. Here we go. So the first thing we want to do is search records in Airtable. Airtable, search records. And if you haven't added an Airtable account or a connection, what you want to do is just add, and then you're going to hit Airtable token, and then you guys know how to add your token from the courses. So we're going to go ahead and click our base, which is our Voiceflow integration, as you can see here. Then for the table, we'll click the name of our table, which is table 1. And then from here, we can click the grid view, because that's what our view is in here. We have a grid view. And then we want to select all fields. For the formula, what I did is not product name equals empty. So that's just saying, the formula is saying if the product name isn't empty, therefore we have a new record. So if I just show you here, product name, not product name equals empty. So this empty, like if I were to put a space here, it would be not product name equals G, which means if the product name doesn't equal G, but we just want an empty string. So I just have 2 single quotes here. Now for the limit, I'm just going to set this to a very high number. It doesn't really matter. Now we have all of this filled out. So if I go ahead and run this module, you can see we get all of our output bundles, all of our products. So it should be around 19 output bundles, which you can see it is. Then what we want to do is we want to set up our own custom JSON structure. So let's go ahead, add this module and hit create JSON. And what we want to do is, instead of choosing a data structure, you can see I already have one here. We're going to add a new one, because I'm just showing you guys how you do this yourself and how you can go about modifying the other one that I've currently created. So what we want to do is generate. And actually, to get us a good base without having to do too many manual programming, we can click this link, we can hit download output bundles, and then we can just Command A, Control A on Windows, copy all of this. Actually, we want to make sure we're only copying the content. And then we're going to bring this over into the add. Let's call this VFKB, Voiceflow Knowledge Base 2. Generate. Let's paste our sample data and then choose generate. And you can see here we have a bunch of different fields. Now, what I want to do is just rearrange these so they're in order. Right now I have product name, price, category, description. So let's just get these in that order. So to do that, you can just click and drag this little thing. Product name, price, We had category, which is down here. Product link, description. Product link, image URL. Product link, image URL. And then what we want to do is delete all these other ones that we don't need. So we don't need this IMT index. We don't need the IMT length. We don't need the created time. We don't need the ID. And we don't need the last modified. So we're just going to leave this as is. And if we hit save, we'll now have an input where we can put all of the necessary fields that we have. So I can just go ahead and then select these variables. Product name, price would be the price, category would be the category, description would be the description, product link, and product image URL. Now, if I go ahead and just run this module, well, actually, I need to run both. You can now see that we have 19 different bundles, and each of them have our JSON string, which is what we're going to need to actually insert into the Voiceflow knowledge base. All right, let me just keep an eye on the chat. Okay. Now, what we want to do next is actually send a request to the Voiceflow knowledge base. So I'm just going to copy over this request module. Since I'm giving you guys this blueprint, you can do the same thing, and you can modify all the JSON that we put in here. So just going to add this HTTP make a request. Now, the only thing you're going to want to change in here, you'll leave this URL, you'll leave post, you'll leave authorization. You're going to want to put your own Voiceflow dialog API. And obviously, I'm going to be rotating this after, so you can't, go ahead and use this project. But what you're going to want to do is head into Voiceflow integration. This is the agent, right? You want to head into integration, and then you want to go ahead and then copy your API key here. So once you do that, we're all set up. I have this formatted exactly how it should be. Now, let me just quickly mention something. If you should change this for what your table has. So you can see I've made it the column names of my table: product name, price, category, description, product link, product image URL, in that order as it is here: product name, price, category, description, product link, product image URL. So you should have that, and then you should have that both for the metadata fields and the searchable fields. Now what we're doing is we're adding tabular data to the Voiceflow knowledge base, and this is just a more accurate way to add data to the knowledge base, because we can do searchable fields and non-searchable fields, which is the metadata fields, and you don't have to worry too much about that. Just know that this is a more accurate way to use knowledge base. So for the product name, we're going to want to add it from the first module, which is here, which is fine, and we're going to hit OK. Now, as you can see, my knowledge base is empty, and if I go ahead and run this scenario, let me see. I actually have to change this JSON. This should be this JSON string. Okay. Now, if I go ahead and run this, it's going to add 19 things to the knowledge base. 200, always good. If I go ahead and refresh this page, you can see now we have all 19 products in here. So that's cool. We can now get our data that's in a Airtable into our knowledge base. Now, what we want to do is make it so if we were to update anything in this Airtable, or if we were to add any new records, we could do so. So let's go ahead and delete these. Delete all selected records. Here we go. Now, what you want to do is you want to add, it's important that you add a trigger. So you can just go, I added the last modified, so it shows when this specific record was last modified. You can see this was the day of the dynamic carousels workshop. We have the date and time that each of these were created. So I can go ahead and hit add. I can go down and you can do a created time or a last modified time. Last modified is better in this case, just because if you were to update one of these, it's more recent, of course. So now that we have that, we want to go back into make.com and we want to check out our other scenario. So what do we have? Basically, things are set up. So this Airtable module watches new rows. You can see it's the watch records. And so we have it linked up with our Airtable. And what we want to do is click our trigger, which is last modified, which is the row that we have. This trigger, you wouldn't have any triggers in this dropdown if you didn't add last modified or created time. And you can see that here. You need to add one of these two fields. And for the label field, I'm just doing the product name Again, I have a high limit, it's grid view, and I'm using the same formula. So then what I did is I added a 1 minute schedule. So this should run every minute. And now let's just quickly modify this. So let's add our Airtable, watch records. What we want to do then is this is just a fancy way of, we have a variable called all products and it's set to false. So then we have a filter check. We have a router. We have first and second. So if it's the first time all of these are added to the knowledge base, it'll take this route and then search all the records and add them. If it's the second time, it's only going to add the updated records. So if you have a crazy huge knowledge base, crazy huge database, a couple thousand records, you're not adding all of them over again. So you'll only add the updated ones. So what this does is on the first run, it's going to go through here. And because we're checking if this is false, it's then going to go through here if it's updated. So you can see that on the filters, we have if all products is false, take this route. And then this is just the same thing as up here, except we don't have this Airtable search records. And if the first condition should actually be if it's true. So we're going to want to add all products equal to true. Okay. So there we go. False, true, we're all good. Again, I'm just showing you guys that this is the same exact HTTP request as this was. So same exact JSON as well. You can just literally click, you don't have to create a new data structure. You can literally just click the one you just created. So, all right, now let's get this set up into the other module. And actually, rather than just recreating this, I just broke down the whole thing. So it doesn't really make sense for me to recreate it. I'm going to give you this blueprint, so you can go ahead and then do that. If you wanted to add a router, you would just come in here, add a module, look for a router. Okay, cool. Now you can go ahead and delete these modules that auto-populates here. And you can go ahead and connect that. There we have the first connection. And then you could shift, and then drag over these two. Command C, Command V, or Control on Windows, and then you can go ahead and connect this. There's the first, second. You can set up the filters exactly how I showed you in the last workflow. Now let me just show you how this is going to update, right? So this is going to, I have the scheduling set up, so every minute this is going to update. So if I go ahead and then add gorilla mode test, this is how I should be doing my testing, but I'm a funny guy, so I'll just add description, just to see if this is working. You can see this auto populates the last modified. Here we go. And we're just going to wait because the lowest amount of time you can do for the scheduling is every 1 minute. So let's just make sure. Let's just wait and then see if this adds. So sometimes the scheduling can be finicky, as you guys know. I've mentioned that in other workshops, but I'm just going to read the chat, see if there's any questions going on while we wait for this. Now, why this is good is because a lot of you are asking in the chats like, hey, I need a retainer, or I'm going to do a retainer, and I'm doing the dynamic carousels, but does that mean every time they add or update a product, I'm going to have to manually go in and then, update the records and all of this stuff? Now, what you guys have to start thinking is you guys have to start thinking as automation specialists. So you guys are creating automated systems for these other people, but you have to think of a way to automate things for yourself. So this is basically allows you to be, if you're doing a retainer model, this allows you to be much more hands-off because number one, this is automatically going to update the knowledge base. You don't have to go in and manually do everything anytime they add a new product. You can just say, hey, here's the database. Make sure you add your products in here and everything will be up to date. So it's a much more hands-off approach, and this is how you guys should be doing things. You guys should be thinking about ways to automate your own life to make it easier as well as your clients. That's the benefit of being an automation specialist. And now I believe it's updated. Let me just give it a refresh. Gorilla mode test. Here we go. So if I just click this, you can see we have the chunks, gorilla mode test, description. So this is going to automatically update this knowledge base. And now if we ask knowledge base questions, it's gonna get everything. So I'm gonna take some questions now. That was a short one. If you guys have any questions about this specific scenario, let me know. Of course, I'm gonna give the blueprint for this, and I guess I'm just going to say this here. A lot of you were wondering how you actually get and import these blueprints. So when you're exporting a blueprint, you're just going to click these three dots, hit export blueprint. This is going to give you a JSON file, and then when you have a new scenario loaded up, you're just going to hit more, import blueprint. You'll get this exact same thing. Of course, I'm going to delete this knowledge base key, and I'll make sure I'll just label this as your API key. So you guys are just going to have to go and copy that into yourself, and then this is going to make sure it automates and updates your specific project in Voiceflow. is in a real client project scenario, you could get the entire product catalog from the client's website into a CSV file. I mean, you can do it however you want. It depends how the database is. Like if a client has a WooCommerce, WooCommerce has a database you can automatically integrate with. Like you don't have to do an Airtable. If they have like a CSV or a Google Sheets, then yeah, you can set. This is just an example of how you could set something like this up. If you wanted to use Airtable, you can go ahead and do that. If you want to use Google Sheets, you can do that. Obviously, the exact mechanisms are going to be slightly different because you're going to have to use Google Sheets modules and those have different formulas and things like that. But this is a starting point. This just shows you conceptually how you can do this. And obviously, you'll just want to adapt the front end for whatever kind of triggers you want to update your knowledge base. All right, let's see any questions. If we delete a record or edit something in them, so this takes into account if you edit a record. If you delete a record, you're going to need to do a different trigger. So basically, how you find this is you go to docs.voiceflow.com, and then you can go into their knowledge base document, and then you can see upload table data. That's the request we're using. This is where I got the URL for the table data. You can find it here. Just like you guys have seen in the courses, of course, we have our headers and everything that we need, and then we get an example response. So if you want to do delete, you have delete a document. I believe it's delete a document. So this is the endpoint that you would use. It deletes a specific knowledge base document by document ID. So what you would want to do is you just want to get your document ID and set up a watch trigger so that it checks the database, and if that record has been deleted, it gets the document ID. No, this is actually to delete the document itself, not to update your knowledge base. So yeah, it is. So you'd want to basically watch your Airtable and then say, hey, is this record still exist? If not, get that document ID and then delete it from your Voiceflow knowledge base. So you just want to go through that train of thought. Of course, you can just look through these API requests, and if that's something you guys are interested in seeing, we could do that in a future workshop as well. All right, let's see some more questions. All right, I think the chats are a bit low. I'm going to scroll up, see what we got. I'm not seeing many questions. I'll take a couple more questions if you guys have them. Is there a way to mass import products? Got a client who has over 100 products within one category. Yeah, so I mean, of course, I'm going to need more information to tell you exactly how to do that. But if you have a database, like I just showed you, I just had 20 products in this database. Could have had 1,000 products, and then all of those automatically got added to the Voiceflow knowledge base. So completely depends on what your database is. Again, just break it down step by step. If you have some more information for that question, then we can help you a bit further. Is there a place to find all these blueprints? This one's going to be linked below the workshop. So you'll just see a little bit.ly link that has this blueprint in it. And all you have to do is just click that link and then you can download it. It'll be a G Drive link, and then you can go ahead and import this blueprint. Let's get one more question. Let's see. All right, we're not getting any questions, so I think we're going to go ahead and cut it off here. If you guys have any more specific questions about this, tag me in the AI automation chat, and I'll catch you for next one.